Hey, we're back. I'm Tina Trenner, Tony Barney, Larry Harrison, and we've been talking about the United Nations and the fact that you probably just don't know that they want to control every square inch of land in the world. Now, you may say, Tina, come on. I'm going to read just a little bit more to you. I'm going to tell you again. Agenda 21. Put that in your computer and take a look for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Always check. See, that's the reporter in me. I always check. You do the same thing. Then you know for sure that no one's telling you a Wild West story. It is now clear that the UN land use policies, though refined over time, have had a predetermined objective from the very beginning. That objective, as bizarre as it may sound, is to place all land and natural resources under the ultimate authority of the United Nations. The official report of the United Funded Commission on Global Governance, our global neighborhood, oh, don't you just get like goosebumps? Our global neighborhood calls for placing the global commons under the direct authority of the United Nations Trusteeship Council and defines global commons to be the atmosphere, outer space, the ocean beyond national jurisdiction, the atmosphere, outer space, the oceans beyond national jurisdiction and the related environment and life, support systems that contribute to the support of human life. Moreover, the UN Trusteeship Council is to be selected from civil society representatives. The Commission on Global Governance also calls for the creation of the new Petitions Council, which would receive petitions from stakeholder councils in each nation for the purpose of directing the petition in the correct UN agency for resolution and enforcement actions. Okay, if that doesn't just curl your hair, they have a plan. They've been putting it in place while you're having your barbecue on the weekend, popping a beer and sitting around having a good time. This is what they're up to. Do not for an instant think that the United Nations has your goodwill at heart. They most certainly do not. And it's obvious they want to control all the land. It's crazy. And here we are. This is socialism. Actually, it's Marxism, is it not?
I think it is, Tina. And one of the concerns that I have is whenever you talk about a sovereign as a trustee, I think all you have to do is look at how well the United States has done with the Indian lands as a trustee. We know that it hasn't done very well.
No.
And if you talk to most Americans of native descent, they will tell you that the United States has not been a very good trustee over their native lands. But that's an inherent problem anytime you have a sovereign that is attempting to be a trustee over the land. This really turns us more to the idea that has been pushed for many, many centuries, actually. And that is the idea that under a socialist agenda, you have a scenario where it's pushed as an idea that of equality, that we'll all have an equal stake. The problem with that is that whenever you have that situation, there are always a few powerful that want to take control once everything has been equalized, and essentially suddenly you have communism. It was interesting when Karl Marx put out his Communist Manifesto. 50 years later, his predecessor, Edward Bernstein.
Not the attorney.
No, not the attorney.
No.
Wrote that essentially the effect that Karl Marx thought would happen, this so-called revolution of the poor or the working class against the rich, just didn't happen. And in fact, when he looked in industrialized Europe and England, he found that capitalism had created a new middle-class society. In other words, the poor were getting wealthier. And ironically, this wasn't enough to convince Edward Bernstein that capitalism was good. And so, in fact, he turned to the idea that we must control capitalism, or in his case, extradite, or extricate rather, capitalists from England by creating social controls in the form of legislative control. So he thought, you know,
Creep into the government.
in other words, it wouldn't work under a free market system. Therefore, we can create socialism by mandating it through legislation and laws.
And that's exactly what the UN has been doing. They've been creeping into our zoning laws and things like that from behind. Back in the back here, the hand's doing this and the other hand's doing something. I seriously cannot, can you imagine this country is where it's at? Did you ever think you'd have a president that was anti-capitalist? I thought that's what we were. We're capitalists, are we not?
We are capitalists, and we've been capitalists, and it's been successful. And there are weak links in capitalism in the United States. And if we could focus on the parts that aren't working and work on fixing those rather than trying to fix everything in one clean swoop or under one administration, it would be it makes so much more sense.
Yes, but if you look at what they've done over the last 20 years, they brought this financial problem on us. This was planned. Any idiot could see you don't give somebody a loan that can't afford to pay it back, and you make the banks give millions and billions of dollars worth of loans, and then you're surprised when no one pays it back. Oh, how shocking.
Well, that was happening micro, all right, where it was happening under our hats as individuals. Now it's looking like it's happening on a state level, and it certainly has gone to big business where they're doing the exact same thing. And some of these programs are designed to fail. There's just, it's obvious. I mean, how are these states going to be able to pay back the TARP money and these other?
It's just nuts.
Yes, it is nuts. And people, I'm more concerned with between now and December 31st of this year, let's get through this year, which means that we have to vote. Okay, we've got some things to take care of.
We have to vote.
And so if we don't pay attention to what's going on right now, we won't be able to fix 2020.
Well, we're going to have to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to go back to the mortgages that I was talking about and why it is that you can get a reverse mortgage.